What's up guys, Rylan back with another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at this 2019 Honda Passport. Now I know, you might have already seen other videos on the Passport, but I can assure you that you have not seen a video on a complete base model 2019 Honda Passport. And lo and behold guys, look what I have behind me. That's right, it is completely base model. There's no package options whatsoever, so this is going to give you a great representation for what your money can buy when you order this car with no options whatsoever. One more thing before we jump right in. One more thing, you guys knew it was coming, I knew it was coming, they knew it was coming, whoever they are, you knew it was coming, so I'm going to have to say it. And that's, if you enjoyed the video at any time, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I also want to give a big thank you to Mossy Honda of Lemon Grove for letting me come out and film with this beautiful, rugged 2019 Honda Passport. So without further ado now, for real guys, let's go ahead and jump right in. Now the first thing I want to get through is, of course, the boring stuff, and that's just going through a brief description of some of this vehicle's specifications. So this MPG on this vehicle is rated 20 in the city and 25 on the highway. Now that's not the best numbers, but this is a mid-size SUV, so it is respectable, and it is also hooked up to a pretty big power plant, especially for Honda. So this is a 3.5 liter V6 that puts out 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. So if you've ever driven in a brand new Honda Pilot or such, it's going to be a little bit comparable in power to that. However, this is quicker off the line and just overall in acceleration. Again, this car is definitely more geared to the sportier enthusiast of cars rather than, you know, the family person who just wants to carry around a bunch of groceries, kids. Maybe doesn't want to necessarily carry around a bunch of that stuff, but you know, they kind of got suckered into it, or you know, I'm gonna quit right there. Now looking at the side profile of this vehicle, and the first thing that catches your eye, or at least my eye, is these 20-inch alloy rims. Now they're black, gloss black, and that's basically the trend going on in the car industry right now. Now another feature I want to go over while we're on this side of the vehicle is the fact that you can unlock and lock the doors without having to touch the key fob at all. So you can keep the key fob in your pocket or your purse or whatever, backpack, whatever it be, and not have to touch the key fob to lock and unlock the door. So that is controlled via this button right here. And basically, if you want to just lock the door, you press it once and it locks, and if you want to unlock it, you basically just hold down the button and it'll unlock. And simple as butter, easy as butter, smooth as butter. Definitely not simple as butter. I don't even know what I'm saying half the time, guys. Now moving around to the front of the vehicle, and the first thing I think anyways is definitely has an aggressive appearance. If you're at all familiar with the new Honda Pilots, then the front end of this vehicle definitely looks similar. However, it does look more aggressive, and that's thanks in part to this piano black around the entire grille itself. Really nice and looks great against this dark gray look. Now moving around to the back of the vehicle, and you can definitely tell that there's similar styling cues to the front. This is actually my favorite side of the vehicle itself. Now something else that really stood out to me on the back end of this vehicle is the fact that these taillights are actually a lot smaller than a lot of other Honda model tail lights, specifically pointing out the review that I did on the CR-V, which has massive tail lights. These are much smaller, much more traditional looking. Okay, now while I'm back here, might as well go take a look at the trunk size and see how this beast opens. It does not come with an electronic lift gate. That's on higher end trim levels. However, it is very easy to lift the tailgate if you're under the age of 80, let me tell you, and better yet, let me demonstrate. So basically, you just pull on this latch right here and it pops up, and it actually has some hydraulic support, so it actually helps you and lifts up basically automatically. So no strain on your muscles, because I know a lot of you haven't been to the gym in over like 20 years, and I'm looking kind of small myself, so I should probably shut up. Anyways, moving on to the trunk, and lo and behold, you see all my camera equipment. Probably should have moved that, got that out of the way so you can get a better representation of how big the trunk is. But I'm extending my arm fully, and my arm cannot even reach the back seats in this vehicle. So again, this is 6 inches shorter than the Honda Pilot, but the Honda Pilot has a 3rd row, which cuts down on space in the trunk. So I actually think, since this doesn't have a 3rd row, but is, yes, 6 inches shorter, I think the trunk size back here is actually bigger than the Honda Pilot. So it's definitely adequate, and if you need to fold down the seats, it's extremely easy. All you have to do is go and reach for this little button right here, and the seats automatically pop down with kind of a spring-loaded effect to it. So it is very satisfying. Okay, now taking a look at the interior on this base model 2019 Honda Passport. And the first thing you're gonna get familiar with is obviously the seats. So I'm gonna get comfortable here, kind of act like I'm not on camera here, kind of just act like I'm enjoying my nice comfortable seat right now. Wind's blowing, it's a pretty nice day in San Diego. Weather's kind of toning down finally, a little bit less rain. You may think I'm completely off topic, but you know, I'm just trying to absorb the comfortability of the seat, and I will tell you that these seats are definitely comfortable. There's not too much side bolstering, and I would have appreciated a little bit more side bolstering. I know on some of their other models, even the CR-V kind of feels like it has a little bit more bolstering on the seats, and I would have appreciated that more for an SUV that is tailored kind of to go off-road. A lot of times, if you've ever been off-road, it is a jarring experience. It is bumpy, you're moving like this, thrown across the cabin, you're hitting your head on stuff, the whole 9. So I would have preferred, yeah, a little bit more bolstering, but there is still a little bit of bolstering. And if you're a really wide person, like this way, these seats are definitely going to be a lot more comfortable for you, because you won't feel very claustrophobic in them. They have the right amount of firmness and the right amount of softness. If it's too soft, the seat's going to deteriorate way too quick, and it's going to get cushiony, it's going to ruin your posture. And if it's too firm, then you're sitting on a rock, and you don't want to sit on a rock. You don't. Especially if you're going to go off-roading and you're going to be driving over rocks. So if you're driving over rocks, which is already going to be bumpy, and you're sitting on a rock, you tell me how comfortable that's going to be. It's not going to be very comfortable. So Honda's got you covered with the comfortable seats and these little armrests on either side of the front seat, which are pretty nice. They do feel a little bit flimsy, a little bit small, but they are very cushiony, very supportive, and they're definitely not going to break anytime soon. They are well made. It's just, I would want a little bit more weight behind it, I would say. A little bit more weight, and maybe a little bit more resistance when I pull it up. I don't know, I'm just griping at this point, just don't mind me. Now taking a look at the infotainment screen with this base model trim level, and you get the smaller infotainment screen, of course you usually do when it comes to base model vehicles. So this is 4.5 inches, and in today's terms it is relatively small, but not really relatively small when you consider that it is a base model vehicle. Typical base model vehicles usually come with a screen about 4 to 5 inches, so it hits that ballpark. However, if you do get a higher up trim level of this vehicle, then you do get a pretty big infotainment screen. It looks really nice, definitely adds to the interior appearance of this vehicle, I have to say, can't lie to you about that. And it is very feature rich. What's actually funny about this base model vehicle is the infotainment screen. The center infotainment screen is actually smaller in diameter than the infotainment screen in between the gauge cluster. You hardly ever see that, and it's kind of funny to see. So if you're the driver, then you actually have the bigger screen on your side. So I kind of like that, because who cares about the passengers, right? Am I right? Am I right? I mean, unless it's your wife, or your husband, or your family, or your dog that you love, or if you're a cat lady, I mean, then you might care about your passengers, but I don't have passengers, so screw it. I'm moving on down from the infotainment screen. You get all of your climate control buttons in a secondary screen, just specifically for for the climate control and the defrosting functionality. So when you take a closer look at it, you see that this vehicle still, as a base model, comes with dual zone climate controls, so I'm glad they incorporated that. Now, a really cool feature that I noticed is the fact that you have a dedicated button to turn on the rear air vents. So you don't have to have the rear air vents going when you have the front air vents going, or vice versa, which is a really cool feature. You don't see these in a lot of cars. Usually you have to go in the back, like reach behind you and manually close the air vents. This, it's just one touch of a button and they'll come on or they'll turn off. And that's something that you don't see quite often. Moving on from that and taking a look at the gear lever. Notice I did not say gear shifter, because there is not a traditional gear shifter in this vehicle. It's actually a simplistic array of buttons instead of a traditional gear lever. And why did they go with reinventing the wheel, some may say? Well, they did want to clear up some space in the center console, which they did. It's definitely a more streamlined look. Now, the center storage compartment actually is completely covered, so it does give the car, again, that streamlined look that they're trying to go for. And it actually has this very interesting material on the top of it. It's hard to really describe what it feels like, but it feels durable and there's some grip to it, and it's got this kind of crazy, cool, unique pattern going on, so kind of appreciate that. To open the center storage compartment, all you got to do is grab this silver lined little handle and push it in and then pull it back. And the storage compartment in here is actually pretty adequately sized. It's all rubber lined to help everything stick and not get all thrown around when you go around a corner. And it is pretty deep. You can see my whole arm is going up to my elbow. I'm taking a look at the door panels themselves, and they're pretty nice. Where you set your arms is definitely pretty comfortable. It feels like really nice leather, actually, and it is very padded where you traditionally set your arm. I know some people set their arm like gangster style, like this. It's still padded, so if you want to do that, A-okay. But if you set your arm where most people set their arm, it is like really soft and surprising. Definitely feels very comfortable, and there is some like dark gray trim on the door itself. They didn't go overboard with the trim. Now, taking a quick look at the back seats of this vehicle, and this seat is all the way back right now, and I still have about, I want to say, an inch and a quarter of legroom, so still adequate legroom back here. And the headspace, again, same as the front, it's about 6 inches, just plenty of headspace back here. I would definitely say that back here you can fit 3 adults, not for an extended amount of time, because I say the middle seat is a little bit squishy when you're sitting 3 wide back here, but for short periods of time they'll be very comfortable. Now, although you don't get the trim that you get in the front door panels and the dash itself, you do get that same very cushiony leather feeling soft touch material back here, which is just so nice to put your arm on. But if you do want to go gangster style back here and put your arm all the way up, well, too bad, because it is kind of hard plastic, so it's not the most preferable place to put your arm. However, I think you'll live and you won't get hurt too bad. So as I mentioned, there are air vents in the back, and there is no controls for those air vents whatsoever back here. So it's all controlled in the front, which is a good or a bad thing. But if you do have devious kids and they're kind of pissing you off, well, you have all the functionality of controlling their air conditioning. So if you don't want to give them AC on a very warm day while you're driving along the road, then you can go ahead and torture them that way, or vice versa. I don't recommend that, and that possibly could be borderline child abuse, depending on who you talk to, depending on how hot of the day it is. But I will tell you, in San Diego it never really gets hot, and if you're talking to me, I say it's all fine and dandy. Roast them for a little bit. Get back. Now, some other quick interior features that I want to go over in this vehicle is the fact that this does have electronic mirrors, so you can adjust the mirrors electronically, as well as having auto up and down functionality in the front windows, so it's automatic one touch up and down for the front windows, and then the back is still automatic. Another really great thing I want to touch briefly on is the fact that this base model vehicle still comes with all of Honda's sensing safety features. So Honda has been doing safety features for a little while now, and they're definitely at the top of the game. They have some of the best safety systems out there, and this car comes with front collision warning as well as lane departure warning and radar cruise control. All of that is completely standard, so that keeps you just a little bit more safe on the road. In case you're having one of those off days where you're not really paying attention, this car can brake for you if it senses a collision, or if there's someone in your blind spot, it can alert you via vibrating the steering wheel and giving you a little audio notification and telling you, hey, there's someone in your blind spot, don't get over in that lane yet. Now, another thing that's standard on this 2019 Honda Passport is that it is push to start. So simply put your foot on the brake, push a button, and, well, hold a button I should say, and the vehicle starts right up. So that's really nice to see. Again, not a feature they had to incorporate on a base model vehicle, especially a vehicle that is kind of tailored to go off-roading. Now, actually getting on the main road in this Passport, and the first thing I'm noticing is the size of this car. Again, I'm not used to mid-sized SUVs such as this, so it definitely feels pretty wide. I'm on some tight roads right now. Fits in the lane relatively fine, but there's not too much room to spare. In hindsight, I do love the driving position. It's very upright, and I definitely feel kind of like the king of the road. I feel like if I wanted to just run some stuff down, no problem, I can go ahead and do that. Another great thing I'm noticing is this engine is definitely torquey. That 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque, no slouch for this car. It weighs less than the Honda Pilot, so it has a better power to weight ratio, and you can definitely feel that, no problem whatsoever. Now, in terms of handling, this car is definitely on the firmer side, especially when you compare it to, say, a Honda Pilot. A Honda Pilot would have a little bit more comfortable suspension, goes over the bumps. I would say a little bit more comfortable than this Passport, but this Passport has a little bit better handling than the Pilot because it's lighter weight and it has a little bit more firm suspension. So when you go around corners at a high speed, there's less body roll. And I like that. It's confidence inspiring, that's for sure. There's minimal tire noise, even with these big 20-inch wheels. I barely hear any tire noise. Wind noise, there is a slight amount of wind noise, and that's just because of how tall this vehicle is, so it's not like it's the most aerodynamic vehicle on the road. But again, not a problem at all, and it's still, I would say, very well insulated for what it is, no doubt about it. Yeah, the handling is sharp. It's just very quick to respond. That's something I was noticing in the Honda Civic that I reviewed, is that the handling was very quick. So the input I put into the steering wheel, if I turn it a little bit, the car turns immediately, and there's really not any play in the steering wheel. Another thing that adds to the confidence of driving on the roads. You want something that doesn't have a lot of body roll, doesn't feel wiggly, and you want something that turns when you want it to turn and doesn't have a lot of play in the steering wheel. So this car checks both those boxes. Okay, now I'm about to give it some gas, see what this thing's all about. Okay. Okay, so this isn't the all-wheel drive model. So there's actually a little bit of torque steer just from the 260 pound-feet of torque. When I put the throttle almost all the way down, it gets up and moves really well, and it has somewhat of a good sound to it. Definitely has some authority on the road. It's actually kind of surprising from this 3.5 liter V6, which is nice to know that there's actually some good sound coming out of those beautiful chrome tip exhaust ports. I will tell you, this is probably quicker in a straight line, or close to it, to manual transmission Civic Si. It's probably relatively the same when it comes to quarter mile. So no slouch whatsoever. It is very quick, and it actually kind of puts a smile on your face. Wasn't expecting that. You really can't even tell it's shifting unless you get hard on the throttle. Then you can tell it's shifting because it has a little bit more aggressive shifts, which I like. I like to know that my car is shifting and kind of gives you a little jolt in the back. That's a typical trait that you find on sports cars, and it's something that puts a smile on your face. Now, with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up here. I wanna thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And as always, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.